All right, this is going to be the last politics segment of the day. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe to stay in the loop on when I upload. I generally upload right after the stream, so if you're seeing that, you just missed it. Schedule coming up soon. Please hit that bell that is somewhere to stay notified. For some reason, there is no bell. Did they get rid of the bell? They might have gotten rid of the bell. I don't know. Anyway, you hit that bell. Hit the notifications. Stay notified when I upload.
Harry Enton got himself in all sorts of trouble yesterday for pointing out the obvious. He had a piece over at CNN pointing out the early signs are very good for the GOP in 2022. He says President Joe Biden's first 2.5 months in office have been far better received than former President Donald Trump's. Biden's been able to maintain an approval rating north of 50%, yet a look at the data also reveals that Biden's Democratic Party has likely not picked up any support since the election. If historical trends hold, Democrats are likely going to face a rough political environment in the midterms. One of the best ways to judge the political environment is through the generic congressional ballot. The generic ballot asks respondents some form of the following question. If the elections for Congress were held today, would you vote for the Democrats or the Republicans? Democrats are ahead on that measure by about 4 points in the average poll taken since the beginning of Biden's administration. That lead is about the same as the final margin in the 2020 presidential race and in the 2020 House popular vote. This tends to line up with what we have seen in terms of party identification. Remember, the 2020 polls tended to underestimate the Republican position, which means Republicans are actually doing better on the generic ballot now than they were heading into the 2020 election. Additionally, the types of voters will be cast on average in these midterms. The gap between the registered voter and the actual electorate had been about 5 points more towards 1974, when Democrats already had a large lead, Republicans winning by between 4 and 5 points. So it would be a historical anomaly for Republicans not to win back the House. One of the ways that you can tell that Democrats are starting to run scared. Just worth noting, Sage Steele asked him, should MLB move the All-Star game? He said, I would back that. Well, now that Stacey Abrams was pointing out to Joe Biden and company that you just alienated a huge percentage of Georgians with this nonsense. Now Biden's trying to back off of it. According to Politico, when Biden was asked last week what he thought of Major League Baseball moving its All-Star game, he told ESPN he would strongly support them doing that. On Friday, the league announced it would hold the game elsewhere, and by the way, invoked Biden in their actual press release. Asked during the briefing whether Biden supported the league's decision, Psaki reread Biden's remarks and distanced the president from the boycott. She said he wasn't dictating what Major League Baseball should do. He supports them being able to make that decision. Okay.
Yeah, they're okay. I've spent 2.5 minutes. I've spent 2.5 minutes listening to this, and he said nothing. He's literally just repeated everything.
That is just revisionist history. He supports them being able to make that decision. Okay.
He supports capitalism. What do you think Biden is? Do you really think he's like a radical socialist? He supports capitalism. Do whatever you gotta do, bro. If that's what you want to do, then do it.
That is just revisionist history.
How is that revisionist history? He didn't tell them to move the game out. They made the decision and he supports it. How is that revisionist? You out of your mouth, the words just came out that explains exactly what happened, word for word. How can you spin that? Oh, why am I asking how? Why should be a better question. No, why is an easier answer. Yeah, it's a how could you spin that? I know how you can, but why? Ben Shapiro is an anomaly in my brain right now because, as you've seen from the last two things I've said, I'm literally short-circuiting as to how to deal with this.
The Democrats might be starting to realize that it's a bad idea to be this crazy. They might be beginning to realize that there will be a backlash to all of this. And by the way, the backlash might be much stronger in terms of both the law and in terms of politics than anybody on the left is willing to contemplate. One of the areas of backlash could theoretically be going after Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Justice Clarence Thomas had a concurrence in a recent Supreme Court on the idea that the Donald Trump account was a public forum run by the President of the United States. In his concurrence, Justice Thomas agreed with the decision that the case was moot because Trump is no longer president. But he argued that Twitter's recent ban of Trump's account suggests it's the platforms themselves, not the government officials on them, that hold all the power. So in other words, if you are going to treat Donald Trump's Twitter account as though it is a public utility, you have to treat all of Twitter like it's a public utility. Thomas wrote, as Twitter made clear, the right to cut off speech lies most powerfully in the hands of private digital platforms. The extent to which that power matters for purposes of the First Amendment and the extent to which that power could lawfully be modified raise interesting and important questions.
Okay, this is conjecture, and I can beat this without even trying. Somebody left a YouTube comment saying like Ben Shapiro is so much smarter than you. I would love to see him. I would love to see you debate and get destroyed by him one. And I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm starting to think like a 12th grade debate lord could easily wipe the floor with Ben Shapiro, especially with like a conjectural argument like that. Two examples that make what he's saying absolutely moot. None of us were alive for this, but you've definitely heard the story of the War of the Worlds broadcast on radio. Right? You've heard of the War of the Worlds thing. If you haven't, somehow, quick brief. Somebody read the goddamn story on the radio and people thought it was real. People thought aliens were literally invading. They did not air that again without a disclaimer saying that what you're hearing is a story. I think it was more like more people had missed the beginning. I think it was something like that. They had missed the beginning. War of the Worlds broke up marketing hype. I got to read a little bit more into it. I just know that like people did believe. I'm sure something happened like where people did believe it. And if that's wrong too, it still doesn't matter because that applies to the point I'm about to make. Free speech stops the government from raining it or like raining down on you for saying something. If you are just putting out falsehoods that a lot of people are believing in, you cannot say it's the people's fault for believing that they didn't do their work. Because a lot of this is content and entertainment driven. They're not worried about whether or not it's real or not. They just like the video and it's like, wow, that makes sense. That person said something that made sense. It could be absolute bullshit, but you don't know that until you do your own like research on it or you do your own fact checks on it. Therefore, tied within like our society, somebody will come up and say, "Did you hear about how the Democrats eat aborted fetuses?" Like, yeah, it's free speech, but I want you to think about like how easy it is for somebody to get into the head of somebody and make them think, "Yeah, all immigrants are coming to kill you." Like, whose fault is it for believing in that? If I am a private company and I know that you're causing that by making these videos, I have the right to be like, I don't want that on my platform. Now, when it comes to politicians, you might say, no, they don't. They, I don't even want to make a joke out of that because then people are going to be like, you're deep state. Oh, what you know? No, they do something else with them, but that's a trade secret. If you want in, you gotta hit me up after the stream. I got a special code. Link you. It's beautiful. You gonna see everything, bro. Yo. So the War of the Worlds is one. Number two. And I hate Godwin's law for this, and if you know what Godwin's law is, you know what's coming next. You know what's next. If Hitler had a Twitter, would you really side with, let's say Hitler lived and like he wasn't executed, and let's say Hitler was in his early 20s when everything stopped. So he would probably, no, he would be dead by now. He wouldn't live to make it 100. Let's say Hitler was alive a lot later. Like, let's say the stuff happened a lot later in history, right? We're still recovering from it. Let's say everything happened, and then because of the rise in technology, we were able to shut that down before we had like a big world war, right? And we know what Hitler's position was and everything. If he had a Twitter or somebody making public statements for him, wouldn't you want to shut him up? Would you defend his right to free speech? This argument is so weird because it's like we're back at the same point of, I'm not asking you to conform to how I think. I just don't think you should have the right to say things like all black people should just die. Like, maybe you don't need to be on the internet if that's your thought. To which we could go back to Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. See, we got all that stuff out. We was with the N-word was flying, like, and you could surmise society by like how anonymous behavior really like rised up like white supremacy. What context are you trying to imbue here that doesn't relate to the real world itself? Like, you know for a fact that man was bugging on the internet. That man was bugging on the internet. And he's the president, and people followed him. There was an insurrection that followed. At some point, I have to say, you know, as important as you are, you clearly want something out of this website that I don't want to offer. So Ben's making a very disingenuous argument.
Thomas said some digital platforms basically ought to be treated like common carriers. Thomas says a traditional telephone company laid physical wires to create a network connecting people. Digital.
That's the part. See, what you just said right there is exactly where that conversation should be. That's what when you talk about unity between like parties, political identities, moral identities, religion, etc. That's where that conversation. That's where you have the unity. Right now, it's polarized on one side because they're saying wild shit, and it's polarized on the other side because like we think there should be accountability for it, but we know there won't be because it's just tweets. And at a grown face value level, I think we all say tweets don't matter, like social media is not the real world, but look at the real world effects. So the problem is always, where should we draw the line? What? And the problem with drawing the line, and this is where I can agree with conservatives, wait, hold it, wait for it. Marquise is agreeing with the right? Oh, ban him. Oh, he's canceled. Cancel me. It's over for him. He agreed with something the Republicans said. Oh no, you're canceled. How are you black and agreeing with it? But if we draw the line at like inciting an insurrection, do we not think about the steps it would take to get people riled up enough? So should we draw the line further back? Should we just silence them all together? See, this is where I could agree with that. Where do we draw the line? Do we act proactively or do we act reactionary? Do we have a reaction to it? Where is the middle ground? And I don't think we'll ever get to a point where people will have a middle ground until we all agree on certain things that, oh, I see that's some type of like fascist lie. All right, like we'll go through a report, we'll go down, let's have a hearing session. Let's have not for every Twitter user, of course not, but for like bigger accounts, let's have let's have not trials, but like let's have a fair hearing. All right, we've seen this, we've seen the result of it. Can you explain this for us? Blah, blah, this and that. There we go. Now that works for both parties. The people who say this crazy shit on the internet have to now like literally all good. Now have to literally return to monkey. Like, they have to literally return to monkey. Like, okay, can you prove that like you're not doing the thing that is happening because of your words? To which you're going to get the defense, well, it's not my fault if they take it that way. I didn't mean it that way, but it would be in the public domain. Oh, that person had to admit that. Then they could go on Twitter and be like, well, I just said that to say it. I didn't really mean it, but it don't matter because you have physical evidence there. Oh, that makes sense now. See? That's how we have that unity. What he just said proves that they're not looking for that unity. They just want to be able to peddle the lies. I had somebody comment on my fucking Candace Owens video and act like, we stand Candace. And I'm like, she literally just said that the inauguration was fake, the election was fake, the president's fake. You don't think she's got at least like 2 followers who masturbate to her pictures every night and are just like, yeah, man, we should like totally kill the president, like in Minecraft. Like, come on. You can ban their accounts, but you can't ban the reaction that they got from the post. They're already radicalized. And that's why I hate that Rick Santos had the nerve to say, don't call me a radicalized person. I don't like that label. But you act like a radicalized person. I'm sorry you fit the description. Maybe now you know how it feels when police pull me over or you fit the description. Was he black? Yeah, I guess we're all alike. Come on. Come on. You know for a fact that that's bullshit. And it's like, okay, so
Digital platforms lay information infrastructure that can be controlled in much the same way. Thomas argued that while private companies aren't subject to the First Amendment, common carriers are unique in that they don't have the right to exclude. He suggests that large tech platforms with substantial market power should be bound by the same restrictions. He says if the analogy between common carriers and digital platforms is correct, an answer may arise for dissatisfied platform users who would appreciate not being blocked, laws that restrict the platform's right to exclude. So Thomas is overtly now stumping for Republicans to pass a law, maybe with some Democrats, that basically say that Twitter and Facebook and Google can no longer exclude people on the basis of political bent.
that's not fair. That's not fair. Some people might ask, all right, so we're going to end the segment like this. So why is that point he just made not fair? You want to that's why I like my Twitch channel for this, because I feel like a lot of political people on here don't talk about things like that. They kind of like get down to the nitty gritty and then just leave it like that. Let's talk about that on a moral scale. Let's have an actual conversation about that real quick for 2 minutes. If social media is to be a public, hey, appreciate the follow.
Now you're speaking my language.
Now you're speaking my language. It's going to read your name. Practicing socialism. Now, did you die?
W08723 is practicing socialism.
Now did you die? That should be for the Prime. That should be for the subs, not for follows. I am weird. I'm going to give you another follow notification. No. Oh, because I'm on the wrong window.
Now you're speaking my language.
Yo, you know how hard it is to program these things for different windows? Okay, people are going to be like, please get back to the point. okay, hold on. Hold on.
Now did you die?
Let me give you a better follow notification.
What's in the bag?
There we go.
A shark or something?
There we go. Okay, anyway. And that's still up. Go, leave. Go away. Leave. Thank you. So if these things are to be nuanced properly, right? If we want to treat these things as public entities, it is not the fault of the companies that their platforms generally have mostly political conversations on them. If Twitter was like it was in 2011, this wouldn't be a factor of to be talked about. Somebody can't go on there and make an accusation like, this white dude shot up a school, and then it gets investigated, and then like nothing comes. My free speech, bro. My free speech, bro. Oh, you're gonna say, well, that's not the same because you're implying something happened that didn't happen. Okay, take it a step further. A politician who runs a state can imply that something is going on that's not actually going on, and they can be as thinly, loosely veiled about it as they want to allow you to infer that something even worse is happening, as opposed to like Occam's razor. The least likely thing is probably the explanation for the event in question. When politicians do it, it drives the conversation up because they become trending. People click on the trending and therefore get involved with the conversation. There's plenty of other shit that's going on, but like the mediums that we use are right now political. That's just the hot topic of social media today. There are plenty of gamers who tweet absolutely nothing. There are plenty of streamers who tweet absolutely nothing. Content creators, just funny meme pages. If we got rid of all politics off of Twitter, you wouldn't be having the conversation, because then you would see, oh, you got to back up what you're saying with real facts. See? It's not hard for me to not blame the publishers. Twitter cannot control what trends. They can with the, you know what I mean, but like they can't control what trends. Just like Donald Trump was complaining, Twitter always makes me look bad with their bad trends, and I'm like, it's not Twitter's fault. The users just like harping on that hashtag. Can bad things come of it if I limit that? Yeah, absolutely. But like, you're implying that all of this is in good faith and will not lead to any damages. That's my problem with that argument, is that you're complaining about these things in some form of fashion that like makes you out to be the victim. And you're able to peddle the idea that the left is going nuts. And it doesn't matter how many times I debunk every video you make, you still have the reach that it would take a lot longer for me to get to a point where I can directly confront you on what you're saying and what you're doing to get you to admit, nah, that's all right, you're right there. All right, I was wrong. As opposed to you being able to spread your influence across the internet. Don't I have the right to say I don't think you should be on a public platform if you can't like not lie? Some people say then, well, how do you know people aren't just spinning things in their worldview? How dare you tell other people that your worldview is correct and his worldview is wrong? Go back to what that chatter just said. The problem is always where we should draw the line if there's going to be more of a line. Why don't we answer that question first and then put everybody in the category of, don't you think this crosses the line? So I'm not shutting down your worldview from social media because I disagree with it. I'm shutting it down is because at the end of the day, what you're saying doesn't tantamount to a reality that people should embrace. You're not presenting points that have two sides in a conversation and we're just talking about the earth or human beings or society. You're spitting something directly into a negative counterpoint that makes people who feverishly hate, oh, the left is going crazy. They're canceling Dr. Seuss. They're canceling Pepe Le Pew. They're canceling Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben. It's like, those things aren't happening, though. You do have the right to spin it that way. But, like, if I own the platform and I knew for a fact that, like, Dr. Seuss wasn't canceled by the left, in theory, I don't want that video on my goddamn screen. Like, I don't want it on my platform. I'm confused as to how you don't understand how we're getting to this point right now. I'm confused as to how you think you have the right to argue these things without recourse. Like, I've told you guys before, I don't put my foot in my mouth about shit I don't know about. So I'm never going to put myself in a position where, like, I would say something as dumb or ludicrous and have you look at it like, is that really real? Is that really a point of contention that we should have? Absolutely not. Does that mean that I morally think I'm right all the time? Or I'm not morally, objectionably right all the time? No, of course not. I can get things wrong. But I wouldn't deceive my audience into thinking that what I was saying was just right off the bat. I would tell you, just like I told you in this segment, yeah, I might not be sure about some things here or there, but at least they still apply to the point, even if I was completely wrong about it, because the statement I'm making works with the context of what has literally happened as opposed to my interpretation of what happened. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So, case in point, Ben Shapiro a rat fucker. Please somebody give his wife an orgasm. Simple shit. You all know what it is.